Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the February 28th to March 1st Godfest that is obviously coming tomorrow. So, all Godfests from now on are going to be following this type of formatting where we actually have the rolling rates disclosed, as well as 20 6-star Godfest exclusives being available at a time. Those numbers may or may not change in the future, along with the rolling rates varying. However, this is the format that we are going to have to come to expect moving forward, and it does give us at least an opportunity to try and snipe more desirable cards because the pool of available monsters is significantly smaller. Now, with all that being said, the Godfest that debuts tomorrow, which is also the last day to complete the February monthly quest, is quite a lackluster roster, unfortunately. And this is because last event we actually had a very strong showcasing, and because they are only featuring 26 stars at a time, there's somewhat of a cyclic nature that is going on. So if we had a very good one beforehand, they're going to be obviously pulling those cards out to a certain extent to cycle in the cards that they did not feature last time. Now, in the currently available cards at the top here, these are the only 20 you can possibly roll, whereas obviously the ones that are unavailable will be unobtainable during these Godfest events. Now, only Dark Cali has not been featured 3 times in a row, and Amino has not been featured twice in a row. So for the most part, they do tend to cycle back everything over time, but because Godfests are occurring every 2 weeks or twice a month or so, it's to a certain extent quite easy to just save up your magic stones and just roll when a more opportune time arises. Like, there's no need to like blow all your stones on a less ideal Godfest. You want to wait till most of the key or strong cards are available, and then you spend your magic stones because you're more likely to at least try and hit those key targets. So in terms of my Godfest exclusive tier list, I've promoted up Blue Sonia 1 tier from A to S, and then Green Sonia from B to S. And I'll explain those changes further down in a moment. Otherwise, nothing else is really shifted around. But then the problem is, if we look at the Godfest rankings, there are, yes, some S tier cards, but if you have to remember, if you pretend that those two did not exist beforehand, because those already would have been like, this is not that strong of a Godfest. We don't have the Sonia evolutions yet. So this Godfest is actually kind of lackluster for the most part. Like, if you take a look here, like, there's a lot more S tier cards that are unfortunately missing, because if we look at what's not available, I can already see Ilm, I can see Kami, I can see Yogg, so, and Amino. So those like are all problematic cards to be missing, and it makes it less desirable to roll in overall. So, as I already mentioned before, Blue and Green Sonia are not available in North America yet for these special new evolutions, but these are actually very special and exciting evolutions because it gives 6-star Godfest exclusives new life and possibly new meaning moving forward. Because these are awoken evolutions, because their active skill does change. So when an active skill does change, that's when I usually classify it as an awoken evolution. However, these two Sonias also become animated, and this could be a nice trend moving forward. Like, I'm gonna make the presumption that most 6 stars moving forward are gonna have new awoken evolutions at some point in the future, but then if all of them become animated, that's gonna kind of like liven up the pad atmosphere, because for the most part we do have a connection to our cards, but the fact that they're just kind of stagnant kind of creates a sense of disconnection, so to speak. So having them animated and being a bit more lively makes them a little more exciting for the most part. So I hope all cards kind of follow that train of thought moving forward. So in terms of the 2 Sonia evolutions, these are incredibly powerful because not only do they gain a revamped leader skill, a better active skill, but they also gain amazing awakenings. Now, both the Sonias basically are almost mirror images of each other in terms of their kit. They have the same bi-elemental board changer that provides them with 3 turns bind clearing, as well as unlocking all orbs before doing their board changer. So you are paying 3 more turns for their active skill in order to have all these components, but for the most part, these are actually quite powerful mechanics. So it is quite nice to have for the most part, and it goes well with the fact that they are bind immune. So they now are bind clearing and a board element making potential. So that's quite nice, because we used to use like, say, like Odin Dragon, who does have very strong bind clearing capabilities, but having a board changer alongside of it might be more meaningful for a lot of teams moving forward. Now, Red Sonia did not receive any of these perks or benefits because she's not a 6-star Godfest exclusive, so just pretend she's still there, but not that important, unfortunately. So the 2 Sonias, like, their leader skill and awakenings are mirrored in the sense they have the same requirements, except match 2 different colors, blue purple versus green purple. But they both feature 4 offensive awakenings, and they have 2 7 combo and 2 L increased attack awakenings. So basically, if you can match 7+ combos as well as an L shape somewhere on your board, you are going to be able to unlock a personal 9 times damage for your Sonia. So that is quite powerful and meaningful because we've seen double 7 combo cards achieve 4 times, triple is 8 times, but with the Sonias, you can hit 9 times personal damage. That's like double killers against any spawn in the game. Now, obviously, matching an L shape as well as 7 combos is not possible on any given board. Given my experience of 5 or 1 enhanced leaders, I can hit 6 combos reliably. 7, the board may or may not actually provide 7 combos. So there may be a bit of risk or like lack of chance for it to pull off, but it's an option for the most part. However, unless you have more L increased attack awakenings than 7 combos, it's usually better to go for the 7 combos on a given board. Because in all honesty, 4 times is quite strong already. So again, these cards have incredible damage potential, and because of that, they tend to make very strong subs on their own team because, well, they have all the ideal awakenings, they have that ideal board changer or active skill. So as I already mentioned, the active skill is now a multi-component bind clearing, orb unlocking, bi-elemental board changer. Now, in terms of their leadership potential, it's actually quite powerful and potent. They have to use dragon type cards, and they are able to form a team with 2.25 times health, 56.25 times attack, 2.25 times recovery, 43.75% damage reduction, along with a passive 4 bonus seconds of orb movement time. So basically, you have an incredibly tanky team with ample movement time, and you already bind immune to begin with. So with that large health multiplier and the large damage reduction component, you're actually a very durable team. It's actually quite hard to kill you, and that's obviously very meaningful because you can stall and dance around. And your damage output obviously is linked to matching water or green plus dark, so 2 elements. But the thing is, because your natural multiplier is so low, you do have a certain degree of damage control, and that's very important. Like, yes, damage control is less needed because we have Fujin, we have Pixels, we have follow-up attack, but it's nice to have. You don't have to bring those Fujin-style actives all the time. Just choose not to match an L, choose not to match 7 combos. Your damage should be low enough to stay under the threshold of most common spawns. So this does have a nice little positive side, and while 56 times does seem low, when you factor in the 9 times potential they can achieve already, quick math, that's over 450 times damage. You're doing more than enough damage, and you're very monocolor, or like you're very focused in terms of your damage output because you're using those specific colors. So this is quite powerful and amazing, and in all honesty, that's going to be quite a fun leader to use because now you have a bit of an extra twist. It's not just combos, it's combos with Ls. It's just nice to have some variety. But if we're comparing both blue and green Sonia against each other, I would give more props to green Sonia. And this is because of her stat distribution and her sub pool that's available. Because blue Sonia has obviously great amounts of health and attack, but she has 0 base recovery. So even if you were to stick in a bunch of other blue cards, you only have 2.25 times healing. And if your 2 leaders have basically just 297 recovery from plus eggs, you're going to have a bit of difficulty potentially healing back up. And that's actually quite a common trend for blue dragons. A lot of them have very poor recovery. So your recovery might be a lot more starved by comparison, but another problem is that blue Sonia just does not have as ideal of a sub pool. Yes, you can use something like Amatsu, but again, you're still running into the problem of lots of health, not enough recovery. And it does no good having that much health if you can't actually heal up from attacks. And this is obviously going to play a bigger role in longer dungeons where you need to either dance around or stall back for active skills. On the flip side, green Sonia obviously has a much more balanced stat distribution because green, like historically in pad, has always been like the balanced typing. Physical was always for blue. So green obviously has a more well-rounded stat distribution, as well as the subs that she possibly can bring. She can bring Odin Dragon, who's a massive recovery stick, and that's going to be great. Obviously, he has a nice active, he's got nice awakenings. You also have Ragnarok Dragon, another fantastic green potential killing card. So green Sonia just has a better sub pool to draw from. Like, there's no equivalence for blue Sonia that can be utilized alongside of it. So it's going to give leadway to green Sonia to being a more favorable card from a leadership potential if you could choose between the two and you had both options. But another thing I want to point out is that you can pair with Diabolus as well because, again, it's a green dragon, so yay, on color, on damage. But you get the bigger board, which is going to guarantee you having enough orbs basically for activation all the time. Very easy to form your L shape as well as hitting those 7 combos, as well as getting the damage reduction from his leader skill. Yes, you lose out on health, and recovery, but you do gain a higher attack multiplier for a bigger board. So it's like pros and cons, but Blue Sonia could still obviously pair with Diablos, but the off-color nature is going to obviously make it so one of your cards is dealing less damage, just not as ideal overall. So Green Sonia is definitely going to be the stronger option, but for those who do own Diablos, it's going to be nice that you can pick up friends with a Green Sonia and have some fun playing a new type of leader. So overall, the Sonias are quite powerful and exciting, and it's just something to look forward to in about 2 to 3 months time frame. Now, back to kind of like the Godfest world itself. And during Godfest, 6-star Godfest exclusives are highlighted, which means they have increased rolling rates, but that also means they have to take away the highlighting status from the other cards that were initially highlighted. So your Pantheon cards, as well as your 5-star Godfest exclusives, or former Godfest exclusives, are no longer going to be highlighted. So it's actually going to be harder to roll a 5-star card than it was beforehand, as well as the 6-star Pantheons being quite rare at the same time. But even with all that being said, you still want to roll in a Godfest, because for the most part, the 6-star Godfest exclusives are a stronger option or choice compared to 6-star Pantheon cards. So you want to obviously try and find time where both are overlapping, so you have nice Pantheons and you have a nice Godfest exclusive roster at the same time, and then you're able to roll have a higher chance of rolling something meaningful. Yes, outside of Godfest, those Pantheon cards have a highlighted rolling rate, but then again, you're also losing out on the chance of rolling something potentially better at the same time. Now, we've come to this point where collabs versus Godfest is not so much of a great debate. Like, it's more of a debate now. It's not as black and white as it used to be, because beforehand, collabs used to be a very high risk opportunity to roll new cards, but Gunko has now been heavily pushing collabs to have the stronger or strongest monsters in the game, and that's not necessarily the healthiest path to be going down, because we actually have a very slow Magic Stone trickle in pad, in my opinion, compared to other types of games out there. So you can't roll very often, and you want to try and roll obviously all the good cards possible, but they're not overlapping. Like, you need 6-star Godfest exclusives, you need 6-star Pantheons, but now we need rare collab cards at the same time. So it's getting harder and harder to decide where we want to spend our stones, because with the rare machine renewal and disclosed rolling rates, collabs actually have much better rates than they used to beforehand. So it's not as risky, so to speak, to roll in collabs. And also with things like Heroine, Dragonbound, Dragon Caller, they're giving us nice kind of like trash cards at the bottom rarity that it kind of makes it so you're not as upset rolling them, because in all honesty, if you roll like a number 6 or a Chazelle, you'd be pretty good because you have a triple killer sub that you can stick on various teams. It makes your life a lot easier. So it's making it more appealing to roll in collabs compared to before, especially if you're an older player who has most of the Pantheon cards, most of the older Godfest exclusives. So we can see that in collabs, there's about like a 5.22% chance to roll a 6-star card. So Matcha, who has a leader swap ability, is a 6-star Godfest exclusive who has a 0.6% drop rate, but Lee has around a 5.2% rolling rate. So it's much easier to roll the leader swapping through a collab, as well as collab cards having kind of mechanics or kits that we can't replicate elsewhere in the rare machines. So it makes it so collabs can be more appetizing, but it's definitely more appetizing than this Godfest, because this Godfest is a very poor roster overall. So in conclusion, this Godfest is quite lackluster in my opinion. Like, yes, there are some useful cards available, but for the most part, it's a lot weaker than the one that was previously here. So if you did not roll in the previous Godfest, there's probably less motivation to roll in this one at the same time. Now, obviously, these tier lists and my recommendations should be taken with a grain of salt. Your own individual monster box, as well as your own goals, vary and differ from mine. So just take this as a starting point. Like, use this and make the decision on your own. With that being said, let me know if you plan on actually rolling in this Godfest in the comments below, and how do you feel about the new Sonia evolutions as well. Hopefully you all have a Mantastic day. Wish you all the best of luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.